All right, I want to thank all the newcomers to my channel. I really appreciate starting to get some of the old team members back. And then for you guys who are new or just finding me just randomly, thank you guys so much. Now, there is something that I want to talk about, which is kind of weird, but I'm going to say it, is I know that what I'm about to say is probably most likely just related to people's vocabulary and terminologies, but I just want to make something really, really clear. I see comments here and there once in a while. It's not all the time, but it's enough that I've noticed where people talk about me showing divine truth. Guys, I want you to understand there is nothing divine about me whatsoever. All I do is show you guys factual information. Now, I don't really understand what this terminology means when people say divine truth. If I'm misunderstanding, because when I think of divine truth, I'm thinking that people think that God speaks through that person. Now, I'm not a religious person, so I don't really know what that terminology means to you personally or the people or my friends who are giving me this comment. I just want to make sure people don't start thinking, that I'm somebody that you should be using to decide on things about your life because you think I'm divinely inspired. I'm not. I make mistakes all the time. I make errors all the time. For an example, I have some speech impediment issues because I had what we refer to as a TIA that was caused by me by being forced to take the jab. So it has affected certain parts of my vocabulary. So you'll notice in my older videos that I used a lot more, let's say, scientific terms, is more so than I do now. And the reason I do that, it's not because I don't understand the vocabulary, it's the vocal patterns that come from my mouth. Sometimes I'll say things and it doesn't say exactly what I want to say, and certain words I can't even pronounce correctly. And some words I will fumble just because of the issue that I have because of the small damage that was done to my brain. And what has happened is my vocal patterns were affected. So, like I said, I'm not divine. No divine source that I'm aware of is controlling my actions. I'm merely doing the best that I can with the limited resources that I have. And you have heard me from time to time tell people that you need to, get up and, join this fight. And I've said this, and I mean it, but here's the thing. If you're in a position where you're not comfortable with doing that, then you should not do that. If you are recovering and you're not in a position where you have the energy or even the will to get into such a dramatic fight at this time and you're focusing on fixing your life and taking care of yourself and living the best life that you can, then don't do it. If you have things going on in your life, then you can just step aside from the ex-Jehovah Witness community and focus on yourself. If you really want to help the ex-Jehovah Witness community, the best thing you can do isn't being like me, running around pointing out all kinds of idiotic facts that these morons say and do, but living the best life that you can. I watched Kim and Mikey's daughter talk about this morning, and it made me want to talk about this. It's a really, really wonderful thing that she was pointing this out, and I give her a big thumbs up. Because I have fallen into this trap where I have been like, you need to get up and do the best that you can, and it's almost like I'm forcing people. And she's right. I should not talk like that to the community. I should not expect that kind of fight from everybody. Because not everybody has the same energy, not everybody has the same big mouth that I have. Because I have no problem confronting people who lie. I have no problem telling people how I feel. But there has been times when I was scared and I was like, I don't know, I want to do this anymore. This is getting weird. They're threatening my family. They're hacking my computers. My family's getting fired from their jobs. Shit starts to hit you really hard, and sometimes people just can't handle it, and you got to back off and take care of what's more important, yourself and your family. Fighting Watchtower should be one of the smaller priorities on your list. It should be something you do as a hobby, right? But there are some of us who are fighters, right? And we're willing to give up everything to fight this fight. And I'm very, very grateful for those people, and you know who I'm talking about. I won't say their name, but I know a particular couple who does this. Now, there are some people who have this drive and energy, even beyond what I'm capable of doing. And this is the couple that I'm talking about. Now, this couple, I know them, and they know exactly that I'm talking to them. And you guys don't know them, and you never will know them because they work with me, and then we do inside jobs together, and they help the community in the best way possible in the background. Nobody knows them. Nobody knows really who they do or what they're doing. People who are involved in the big picture know exactly who I'm talking about. These people have helped me. You know, they were there when I needed them, when I needed advice, legal advice. And that's the kind of thing that some people are doing that others can't. I can't travel from state to state doing that kind of stuff. I have a family, I have kids. I don't have the ability to do something like that. Now, I'm not going to go and look bad about myself because I can't quit my job and go, on this fight all around the state. I can't do that. They can do that, and I am grateful that they're doing that. Just like not everyone who wants to make a podcast, spend hours every single day looking at Jehovah's Witness garbage and then talking about it. I can do that. I have enough time, enough experience where I feel like I can share those experiences. I can talk about enough. I have basically enough knowledge to be able to explain certain things. And I have a perspective that some people have and some people don't understand. And I can share that information, right? So the whole point of this extremely long rant is this. I'm not divine by any means whatsoever. I get nervous when I see that and hear that kind of talk. I know that you mean good, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm never going to say anything or remove it or nothing like that. But when I hear stuff like that, it makes me feel uncomfortable. It really does, because I'm like, I don't want people thinking that I'm somebody they should be. I don't want to become a cult. That scares me. Now, as ridiculous as that sounds, I sometimes wonder, well, if I say things, do things, I don't want to push people to do things that they don't want to do and then form my own cult by mistake. That is my biggest fear by doing anything on YouTube. But, the reality is if I see something like that, I have enough friends that I think would tell me that something I'm doing is out of control, maybe weird, and then we could put a stop to it, right? It's always good to have somebody else looking at you from another perspective saying, hey, yeah, I know you think this, but you might be going a little too far, right? There's nothing wrong with that. Having people having boundaries and having people being like, hey, I don't really agree with you, it's cool. It's always good. All right, so I'm just going to give one example of this, okay? So me and Jimmy were having a discussion, and we were just kind of throwing some ideas off one another. And we're talking about the situation with global warming and the global politics, and he had an opinion that that some of it is fraudulent and made up. I didn't agree with this statement. Okay, I told him, I'm like, I don't agree with you, and he said, that's okay, brother. He's like, well, everyone has their opinion. He says, but why don't you take a look at this, right? And so we were discussing this. And he said, have you ever looked at some of the quotes that came from some of the mainstream mouth of this? And he gave me this example. And I'll be honest, it never dawned on me, and I never did the research that I should have on the subject. And yes, so this is an example of this. What you're seeing is the exact same climate scientist said that by now we would be in an ice age and the whole planet would be froze over. That same scientist is now saying the whole planet is warming up. These are completely contradictory belief systems that are supposed to have happened already. So now I know that the climate science, I have done extensive research since me and Jimmy talked about this. And now I have a decent understanding of the political ramifications of what the climate scientists are. Most of the climate scientists that are out there telling you the doom and gloom are actually taking the information and skewing it and presenting it in a way that's not accurate. And they're doing it on purpose because their funding is dependent on it. So they're making millions upon millions of dollars from different government agencies. They're also coming from third-party members who are the same people who built BLM. They're the same people who push the social agendas that you see right now, like trans, child modification. These exact same billionaires are the same nonprofit organizations that are financing these people. So once you realize that, then you can start looking at the data, and then you start going, okay, well, what are other climate scientists saying? Sorry about that, guys. I got cut off there. But what other things are climate scientists saying? And you're finding out that a lot of climate scientists, people in the field, are saying that yes, global warming and things of the nature are happening, but it's not anything on a scale that's represented by these people. These doom and gloom cults have been popping up with this idea that we need to depopulate the population in order to save the planet. So they want to commit mass genocide in order to save the planet, is what they say. Now, that's really, really, really creepy. And so when I started analyzing this data and seeing this stuff, I started realizing that, yes, what I had thought was true was actually data that was skewed in a certain way to make it appear something that it wasn't. And I was absolutely 100% wrong. I am no different than anyone else. There's nothing divine about me. I'm just a normal, everyday guy doing the best that he can. Now, with that being said, everyone should understand that, especially everybody who was a member of Jehovah's Witnesses, you have a lot of psychological issues. Everyone who is involved in that cult group was conditioned and brainwashed to behave a certain way. And it is very, very hard to break that conditioning. And sometimes that broken conditioning comes out. So, with that being said, be very, very careful to the people that you're paying close attention to. And when you start feeling like somebody is divinely speaking to you, you need to step back for a minute and think about what you're actually saying. And do they actually deserve a praise like being considered to be divine? Because if you are thinking that I'm speaking truth that is divine, that is going to change the world, you're wrong. I'm a normal, everyday guy trying to help my small community, and there's nothing particularly special or great about me. I'm as average as everybody else, just like you. The only difference between me and you is I have a slightly bigger mouth. So, with that being said, I do not mean to offend anyone who is a believer, who thinks that me doing the work that I do is inspired by God. You can think that, and that's completely fine, and I don't mean to trash on you. I just want you guys to understand that I'm just a normal dude, and that kind of praise isn't necessary for me. I find it to be flattering and very kind, and I appreciate what you mean by it, but like I said, that kind of talk makes me uncomfortable. And I just want you guys to know, you can continue to say it, do it, it's okay. I just want you to know where I stand with you guys and what my viewpoint is on it, and that everyone is clear that I do not think that I am divinely inspired. I don't think that anyone should follow me. I think that people should just communicate what I say, gather that information, check that information, and see if it's valid or not, and if it's useful for them, they can share it. That's the only thing I want you to do. I want you to look at the information, tell me if it's useful to you, and if it is useful to you, I want you to use it to benefit yourself. That is my only goal, period. To help benefit people on a day-to-day basis.